fat. For 290,000 years of human history, this did not exist. Belly fat as we know it today appeared only around 10,000 years ago. In 2012, a team of researchers from Stanford and Duke flew to northern Tanzania. They went to study the Hadza, one of the last hunter-gatherer tribes still living on Earth, people who hunt with bows, dig tubers by hand, and live exactly the way humans lived before anyone built a city or invented a gym. The researchers expected to find people burning enormous amounts of calories, lean, exhausted, moving constantly. Hadza man tracks prey for miles through the bush, climbs trees to raid beehives, carries heavy loads back to camp, and his body burns the same energy as someone sitting at a desk in San Francisco. The researchers published the results. Other scientists did not believe it. They ran the numbers again. Same result. So movement was not the difference, which meant the answer was somewhere else entirely. The Hadza eat roughly 100 to 150 grams of fiber every day. The average American eats about 15. Wild tubers, fresh berries, game meat, seasonal honey, no flour, no added sugar, no ingredient list on the back of a package. Their gut microbiome contains on average 730 species of microorganisms. The average person in California carries 277. Researchers at Stanford identified 124 species of gut bacteria that have completely disappeared from industrialized populations. Not reduced, gone. Justin Sonnenberg, one of the lead scientists, put it simply. In the Western world, we are literally starving our microbial cells. Those missing bacteria produced compounds that reduce inflammation, regulate appetite, and protect against fat accumulation. Without them, the gut wall becomes slightly permeable. Inflammatory signals leak into the bloodstream, and the body responds the only way it knows how: store fat in the abdomen. But food was only part of the answer, because there was something else the Hadza had that we do not. The Hadza sleep when the sun goes down. No screens, no artificial light, no reason to stay awake once it gets dark. Their bodies follow a rhythm that human biology has run on for hundreds of thousands of years. Cortisol rises with the morning light, melatonin rises with the dark, and every hormone that controls hunger, fat storage, and metabolism resets overnight. A Mayo Clinic study showed what happens when you cut that cycle short. Participants who slept just 6.5 hours per night for 2 weeks accumulated 11% more visceral fat. Not the fat you can pinch, the deep internal fat wrapped around the liver, the kidneys, the heart. Because when sleep is cut short, cortisol stays elevated, and cortisol sends one instruction to the fat tissue in the abdomen, which has more cortisol receptors than anywhere else in the body. Store fat here for the emergency that is coming. At the same time, ghrelin rises, the hormone that makes you hungry. Leptin drops, the hormone that tells you you are full. The body stops knowing when to stop eating. The Hadza did not solve this with discipline. The sun went down, they slept, the system reset. But it was not just food and sleep. There was a third thing. The Hadza experience stress, but it is a specific kind. A predator appears, cortisol floods the body, they run, they fight, they escape, and then it is over. The threat resolves, the cortisol drops, the body returns to baseline. A large study called the Multi-Ethnic Study of Atherosclerosis tracked over 1,800 people and measured their chronic stress levels alongside their body composition. The result was clear. People with high chronic stress carried on average 9.4 square centimeters more visceral fat than those with low stress. Not because they ate differently, not because they moved less, simply because their cortisol never came back down. Our ancestors did not have a word for the kind of stress that has no resolution, the deadline that resets every Monday, the financial pressure that never fully lifts, the relationship tension that sits in the background of every single day. That kind of stress, the kind with no end, was almost unknown to them. And here is where everything starts to make sense. We lost all three, and it did not happen by accident. It happened in steps, and each step had a name. The first theft was 10,000 years ago. Humans invented farming, stable food, permanent shelter, no more chasing animals across the savannah. It seemed like progress. But anthropologist George Armelagos spent years analyzing skeletons from over 20 populations across every continent. The moment a population switched from hunting to agriculture, average height dropped, bone infections appeared, tooth decay exploded. The wild meat, the tubers, the seasonal berries were replaced by wheat and rice. Fiber dropped, gut diversity dropped. The microbiome that had protected human bodies for 290,000 years began to collapse. Agriculture did not immediately give everyone a belly. Farmers still worked fields by hand. They still burned what they ate, but the foundation, the food that kept the gut healthy, was gone. The second theft came in the 1800s. Factory shifts stretched to 14-16 hours. Gas lamps, then electric light, turned night into working time. For the first time in human history, someone else decided when you rested. By the 1860s, doctors were writing about entirely new diseases. Overwork, insomnia, words that had barely existed before. The natural sleep cycle that had regulated every hormone in the human body for 290,000 years, broken in a single generation. And with the broken sleep came something else. The factory did not just exhaust people. It created, for the first time, stress that never resolved. Long shifts, dangerous conditions, low pay, complete dependence on an employer. The cortisol that was supposed to spike and drop started spiking and staying. The third theft finished the job. In the 1870s, the roller mill spread across Europe and America. For the first time, you could strip wheat down to pure white starch at industrial scale, removing the bran, the germ, everything the gut microbiome had survived on. White bread became cheaper than whole grain. Within a generation, the working class was eating it at every meal. And then, sugar. In 1700, the average person in Britain consumed 4 pounds of sugar per year. By 1901, 90 pounds. Fructose in quantities the human liver had never encountered. Straight to the liver, converted directly into fat. Not the fat under your skin, the fat around your organs. The food was gone. The sleep was gone. The stress had no end. And the body that evolved over 290,000 years never got the chance to adapt. So now you see the full picture. If you actually want to lose that belly, the gym alone will not cut it. You need to fix the sleep. You need to reduce the stress. And yes, you need to change what you eat every single day. 3 things at the same time, over a long period of time. And look, let us be honest, that is genuinely hard. Much harder than buying a gym membership and calling it a plan.